Welcome back to the podcast. This is Matt Eagle for Eagle AI Agency. We are in Talent Talks. I'm actually here with Kevin Brannon. He is the owner of KTB Talent Group. Really excited. I think really cool story too as well. Obviously, unfortunate how you got started, but it's exciting that you got started and you're having success. So, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, we would love to hear a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, Matthew, thank you, or Matt, thank you for having me on. Happy New Year to you, by the way, too. Um, yeah, KTB Talent Group was born very quickly 2 years ago under some kind of unfortunate circumstances, um, and I had to pivot quickly, and I think it was my time to finally go out and trust myself and trust my experience. So I opened up KTB Talent Group out of Montgomery, Texas. So we're based about an hour north of Houston, between Houston and College Station, kind of Texas A&M Aggie land. So I opened up my firm, boutique style recruiting firm, and luckily I brought over a major client with me to kind of help me springboard and have some quick wins, which was necessary. And I brought over a few recruiters that have done a great job for me. So yeah, we're 2 years in, and it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah,
I think that's an understatement, as you probably
yeah.
know. But I wouldn't go back and change anything. I mean, there's some things I would change, but the decision to get KTB Talent Group off the ground, I wouldn't change it. So here we are 2 years later.
Yeah, how do you feel 2 years down the line? You first started, it was probably nerve wracking. How do you feel 2 years later?
Still nerve wracking. Yeah, it's still nerve wracking, but it's exciting. I didn't have much time to think when I opened up KTB under those circumstances of, working for another firm that they just, I'll save you the gory details, but I had to pivot quickly, and so I didn't have time to really think about it. Right. I surrounded myself around some people that were smarter than me to help me kind of say, Kevin, this is how you're going to get this off the ground quickly. Now, 2 years later, looking back, yeah, I've learned a lot. I've learned more in the last 2 years, I think, than I've learned in the last 20. So, yeah, still nerve wracking, but it's still motivating. Like, what is this week or what does today have in store, right? You never know who you're going to meet, relationships you're going to start building. So that part really drives me as a leader of a small company.
Absolutely. And obviously you have some really good clients too as well. We won't obviously say it on here, but you got some ones that, can really hold the line for you as you continue to grow too as well, which is really exciting too. So in your opinion, what major shifts have you seen in the staffing industry over the last 12 to 18 months? I would say honestly the last 2 or 3 years, it's a kind of a different landscape right now, right? So what are some of the differences you've seen?
I mean, I think, from obviously the rise of AI, right? People are either excited about it or they're scared, right? I'm kind of in between. And also, some of it, I'm like, okay, I'm old school. We were joking about, I'm still using the rotary phone, right? I'm joking, I'm not. But I'm old school to where a lot of this AI, I'm like, okay, how do I make this work for me? Or how can I have an open mind to say, all right, introduce AI and how it can help my firm? I think in the last 12 months, I think recruiting industry has shifted a little bit. Um, it differs from clients to candidates, and I'm speaking on behalf of my experience. In the last 12 months, getting candidates to be open to hearing about these new roles or a company they're not aware of, I think they're kind of hunkered down right now. I really do, and that's the feeling I'm getting from these candidates. From a client base, I don't think it shifted too much, at least for my clients. I mean, there's definitely some changes, and from a consulting standpoint, I like to see them kind of start to dive into and keep an open mind about time management and whatnot. But in the last 12 months, I think from a candidate standpoint, in my opinion, they're hunkered down.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely more jobs than candidates right now, for sure. You
Yes.
know, and I've seen in the waves of like 7 years, obviously this next 2026 wave is going to be a growth season, right? You're going to see some opportunity for sure. Maybe have you seen some client expectations change since remote and hybrid work? I know there's been this tussle between the two. Uh, Before you go in, it's almost like some people like it's all real estate. They need to get people back in office. They're spending all that money, and some people saying like, "Hey, like it's almost more efficient to work from home. Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's all over the dashboard for my clients. I have a major client in manufacturing, right? That really didn't affect them because they need them on site. They need them on the plant floor. If it's the financial professionals or if it's the engineers, they really need them on site. So that didn't change. A few of my smaller clients, though, hey, now we're going instead of 2 days in the office, we need you back five. So has that affected the pool? 100%. So even rediscovering these candidates that I've maybe introduced them to a couple of my clients that were hybrid, now they're on site. They're like, oh wait, they went on site. No, man, I'm comfortable working from home. So that pool obviously shrinks. In terms of expectations from us, no, I have never stopped traveling, even since 2020. I've always tried my best, even during the COVID era. I believe in hands-on. I believe in face-to-face. So from a standpoint of me in terms of client, building clientele and building that relationship, I'm traveling to my clients as much as I can for that face-to-face
Yeah, you have
interaction.
a really cool story from Pittsburgh, right? Being able to travel and get some dinner with Pittsburgh and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I
awesome.
mean, I went to Pittsburgh, had dinner up there with the VP of Finance from my major client, who I really look up to and has been instrumental in my career. I mean, he really has. So having that 3 hour dinner with him up on, I think it's called Mount Washington. I mean, I got so much out of that. He probably doesn't realize how much I got out of that dinner. I mean, that's how you learn the face to face. You're not rushed. You're not hiding behind a. I mean, this is valuable. Don't get me wrong, Matt. But I'd rather shake your
Yeah,
hand. You know.
it's each other. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Play some golf. Yeah, big time.
That's right. That's right.
So, what are
Shoot a
some of the
95. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not good. So, but some pain points, right? So, what are the biggest challenges your clients are struggling with right now when it comes to talent? What do you think is some of the, obviously some of it's expectation, right? One thing across the board is expectation, but also like speed of delivery, right? It's kind of like slowed down versus speed up, which doesn't make any sense right now. But what are some of your
Well,
thoughts?
I mean, definitely. You just said it right. So speed, right? Time will absolutely, kill um, or terminate deals, right? These contracts should be as tight as possible. So the longer you stretch these time to fill out, bad things can happen, right? So time, also candidates right now they're just how what I sense is they don't want to make a move. Like they're scared to make a move. Hey, is this company recession proof? You know what, man? There's a nice pay raise. The compensation package is so much better, but I'm scared to take that chance. That's what I'm getting. That's the feedback I'm getting. That's the intel I'm getting. Um, I think that's a major pain point for them. And then also like the inconsistencies, just from a consulting standpoint, when I'm talking to my clients, especially the big machine clients, I'm like, look, y'all, you gotta tighten this up, speed it up. Time will hurt, in my opinion, will hurt a deal more than compensation will, right?
Yes, you can't get the best quality talent without speed. You can't. Best talent is the highest speed delivery. So if you're the slowest deliver, if you have very slow delivery, you're always going to get bottom barrel talent. Always, right? I'm just getting this off my chest. So if anybody hears this, that's like the truth, right? Of course, you want a quality interview. So if you want 3 interviews, just knock it all in the same week, right? So
And
like, don't wait
I
4 weeks for it. You know?
yeah, you just said three. And if my clients are here, I tell them the same thing. It's not like we're talking behind their back. Like I
Right.
tell them, all right, 3 interviews. Some of them go five or six. I'm like, look, time waits on nobody, and you're not the only circus in town. They're going to go find another circus, or not the only show in town. So you really got to speed that up. Um, combine hiring managers on panel interviews to just speed it up. Keep a nice flow. Haste makes
Mhm.
waste. Don't get me wrong. Haste makes waste. You don't want to shove a square into a circle, right? Can't those don't fit. But and they'll appreciate that client um, kind of that what I'm trying to say. I'm lost of words here, but that experience, that client experience, it's got to be
Right.
smooth because they're interviewing you, and sometimes I think hiring managers really forget that.
Yeah, yeah. Especially I mean, if this person is going to be impactful, it's really going to make something different in your company, and it's going to be a legitimate position that
Yeah,
you really need, right? You
yep,
should. honestly put your sales pants on too, right? As much as you're interviewing, you may not be the best business that they're interviewing with, right? So you got to put
No,
your sales pants on.
you're right. You're right. And then, just as an account manager, right? A lot of these are the clients that I brought to the table, and I have 1099 recruiters. But then I'm sitting there, and my recruiters are like, "Hey, I just worked my tail off on this.
Yes.
Why are we waiting so long?" So then I'm like, "Okay, let me try to go back to drawing board and find out why." So that's time consuming, and then there's confusion. Confusion leads to panic, and then you possibly lose recruiters that way or whatnot. So there's a lot of components that go into it. But I think if the clients and the recruiters here can get on the same page with the time frame, it's plug and play.
It's a beautiful story. Yeah. Best talent, you're making money, they're getting what they need, everything works out.
Correct.
What
Correct.
bottlenecks do you see tend or slow down internal process the most? Or maybe where do you see where most recruiting and staffing firm teams lose time and efficiency? Like you said a little bit of it there, right? Like
Yeah.
confusion and like kind of negative, but like what else do you see?
Yeah. I think one just from a consulting standpoint, lack of communication, right? Lack of communication or too many hands in the pot, or their SOPs aren't up to date and they have no, they need process improvement big time. So, and that's just not with the big machines that I support. It's with the small mom and pops because they don't know any better, right? I mean, and I'm not saying they should know better, but this is new to them or they're newly, using a recruiting service like they're using KTB. They've never done this before, so they don't understand the flow, right? Um, but in terms of the big machines, if there's no process in place or HR comes in, I
Mm.
love HR. Don't get me wrong. I love HR.
Yeah, no, it's great. They're
I love
awesome. Yeah.
HR. I do. But they're doing their job, then it slows down, and then those clients they start to drift away, kind of like movie Castaway. Remember Wilson and
Yeah,
Fairbanks?
yeah,
There's
yeah.
our clients, man.
Don't go, man.
There's our
Don't
candidates.
go.
They're drifting. Oh, I
Get
hope
them
that
back.
answers.
Oh, I love the message. Hey, can you call that candidate back? We actually want to offer him. And it's like it's 3 months down the road, man. He's got another job. It's brutal. It's brutal. Are there any particular roles or industries where hiring has become especially difficult? Have you seen anything particular? I know you're kind of more in one specific industry, but just kind of
Yeah.
wanted to see.
I mean, so I'm heavily involved in finance and accounting, which I knew nothing about finance and accounting really until, I met the VP of finance at my major client, and he taught me a lot about finance, and then his controllers, taught me a lot. And I listened. I'm like, I'm going to learn and listen about this. Um, they can be challenging, right? You need manufacturing experience, and not all financial professionals have manufacturing experience, right? So that can be tough at times. I just newly got involved in higher education, right, through recruiting for Texas A&M University System. Awesome experience. Probably the best experience I've had in my recruiting career. I mean, it's fun. It's fun. They're motivated. They believe in collaboration. Still challenging because they really need that tight niche, right, of leadership and research and administrative. But that's quite challenging. I wouldn't call it bottleneck there,
Yeah.
um, but more challenging, right? Needle.
I recruited for Old Dominion University's finance team. And what you realize is they actually need someone that's kind of that higher level professional because they're also talking to stakeholders, they're also talking to donors, they're also doing this, right? The finance person turns into something more than just somebody that's in accounting, right? So it you're absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah.
So when it comes to like pipeline for you right now, I know a lot of it has to do with in person, but what does your current sales pipeline look like? Where do your leads typically fall off, or where do you get your leads, and then where do you see a leak, and then where do you see your success, and
You mean
maybe
leads in you mean leads in terms of candidates?
in the sales pipeline, clients, right?
Clients. So we were using Apollo IO, right? Platform Apollo IO to reaching out. A lot of just countless emails, countless emails. A lot of it we relied on word of mouth. Okay. And don't get me wrong, it's word of mouth has been great, but that's where we have absolutely sucked at business development, at sales leads. Or we'll get started. We'll have a discovery call where I feel very confident with discovery calls. I feel very confident that I'm not going to tell them what they want to hear. I'm going to just, hey, this is what I have to offer. Have those tough conversations, and close the deal. Um, but then sometimes we've just been ghosted. Like we have been ghosted after feeling good about it, and then we'll send an email like, "Hey, it was great. Would you like to talk again?" And then those fall off. So um, I'll say a lot of our leads, to answer your question, were out of LinkedIn, reaching out to decision makers on LinkedIn. I mean, just cold emailing, Apollo IO, word of mouth,
Yeah.
referrals. Now the referrals really were strong referrals. Like,
Yeah.
um,
That's where the money is, right? Referrals. Who can we connect with
yeah,
that we already have
yeah.
rapport with? Um, where do you? And it's always a battle, I guess. Do you just keep hammering numbers, or do you think there's a more strategic way of doing things? For instance, no matter where I was, it was always 100 cold calls. It was always sending follow ups, setting some type of sales process, right? Or do you feel like the world's changing in a way where there can be a strategic process, more predictable numbers? Because I know for me, for 7 years, you put me on a territory, I'll break the territory open with doing 100 cold calls a day, right? It doesn't seem like it's in that direction anymore, right? So, do you think there's a more strategic way? Do you think AI can step into this? Do you think that the numbers matter? Like, what are your thoughts?
So yes, to answer your question, yes, I do think AI can step in, right? And I've had good experiences with the little bit of AI that's been introduced to me, and then I've my eyebrows went up like I don't like what I see here, and we can further discuss that. But to answer your question, I believe professionals should hire professionals. My father-in-law was he's retired now, but very successful real estate broker, and he would always say, "Professionals hire professionals." So don't hire an electrician to do your plumbing work, right? So to be strategic, if I'm not an expert at AI or I'm not an expert at marketing, go find the right person that can do your marketing for you. Yes, it might cost some money, right? Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. So I believe putting the right people in place, not only into your client's organization, but your own. So that's one thing I've kept an open mind about is like, look, how do I scale this business? How do I take it to the next level? Because the recruiters that I have, they've done a great job, and they've done a great job, but they lack the business development piece.
Yep. Yep.
They do.
Yeah. And that's what feeds the business. That's what feeds it.
It
That's
does.
what feeds, especially if you're getting the right clients versus the wrong clients, because you may have 20 positions on the board, but it might be the wrong clients, right? So now you talk about quality, right? And you can only have quality by having selection. You can only have selection if you have a lot of pipeline, right? And
That's
that's
it.
it's so important. I've talked to a lot of businesses now. I've seen small companies making $5 million, sole proprietor, no recruiters, 5 million, just all AI support. Then I see, companies same way, 5 million, five recruiters, some AI, and they're happy with that too. I just feel like there's this beautiful story of what are you trying to accomplish, and of course it could be industry type. IT people obviously love being reached out to with all this other information and followed up on and other things. And manufacturing, more blue collar, maybe engineering, don't appreciate that, right? So it always falls within the industry, right? Of whether they would like that or not like that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see how it's changing, especially when I was 22 years old, just making as many calls as I could. So
Big.
for recruitment process, talent pipeline gaps, right? Where do you see the largest gaps in recruitment cycle? Sourcing, screening, engagement, or placement? Do you see any major gaps right now in recruiting?
I mean, there's one thing I try to strive with my recruiters, and that's on our side, like keep our sidewalk clean, right? Be consistent, follow through, don't ghost. I get it. Like life gets busy, your desk might get busy, and something might fall through the cracks, and I understand that. But follow through. Um, I do think sometimes recruiters can give up. Right?
Mhm.
It's a numbers game at times, right? You want to find the right skill set. You have to do that. You can't hide that. You can't submit somebody, and especially like to my large aerospace client, there's no hiding candidates and saying I'm going to try to sneak this candidate in. It won't happen. So there's no hiding that. But it's a numbers game too. So, follow through. I think we're really good on that. In terms of sometimes coming up with a good plan or giving up on a rec. Like, this is too hard,
The
man. The client
same
takes too
one.
long. Like,
Yes.
bro,
Yep.
you keep knocking on. You got to follow through. You don't get discouraged. Sometimes your client will see that you're persistent and they'll like that. They might not tell you at that moment, but a month later they're going to come back and know your hard work or your follow through, your consistency. I mean, that's what I try to strive and try to push. Um, but I think it's sometimes giving up a little too early would be a gap, and then also the communication. Sometimes, some of the clients, they'll communicate when they want to, or they don't answer in a timely fashion. So then, what does that do? The candidates start drifting away, and you're trying to bring them both together and play matchmaker. Very hard because your arms only stretch so long.
Yeah. Like you said, time. Yeah, I remember a prior client at a healthcare company, gave us one position, two positions. She had a terrible experience before. I was super persistent. Filled the two positions, it led to over 100 positions. And it really is just saying, I'm going to be the best on the block when you walk in, right? And then it just turns into multiple opportunities. Now the entire section is taken over by that company, right? Which is something we didn't have before, which I think is great. And then I think the one thing that I always enjoy talking about is just it's candidate engagement throughout the hiring journey. I think the more you can keep someone warm. So if you talk about like candidate feedback, lack of communication, lack of feedback, didn't get any feedback from the interview, so I don't know where I stand, so on and so forth. And then as recruiters, you're supposed to be on the phone all day, right? So have you seen that there might be a gap in engagement either on the front end or the back end of each conversation of your candidate?
Yeah, no, we do, and I learned that last week. Like I had thought I had a deal to the finish line, and I thought I'd done a good job. You know, keeping them engaged, which I did. I mean, the communications there. I was looking back this morning, kind of just at our thread over the last month and a half, and my client was ready to pull the trigger and make an offer, and I started thinking, I'm like, did I ask him if he was being recruited somewhere else? Yes, I
Yeah,
did, but that was like 4 weeks ago. I should have asked every week, and that's my fault. And I'm gonna use that for training for my recruiters. Say, don't make the same mistake. Now, I wish he would have been a little bit more transparent, but you can't just assume
yeah,
they're going to be transparent, right?
right.
So, that's something I could have done a lot better. Um, so we try to live that every day, but that's one thing you really have to keep up on your candidate engagement, and it's okay to over ask because most likely, like,
Or you
it's
just
not gonna shut
explain,
down.
right? Hey,
Yeah,
I'm going to keep asking you this because my client likes you, but has a process, right? If we lose you, I want to let them know immediately, right? And just building that relationship, right? Because it's your reputation online too. They need to know that as well.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah. Last week wasn't a good week, man. It was New Year's, right? And I lost, yeah, two deals fell through at the last minute, and then my other client, a smaller company, but about a size of about 100 employees. I work very closely with Mary. Her name's Mary Anteo. She's a chief operating officer. I've worked with her for a very long time, but we have a trust. So the candidate, after signing the offer letter, just days before start date, hey, I'm taking another role. But granted, she's like, Kevin, I know you're good for this. I know you communicate well with them, and we have a very established working relationship. Thank goodness. If it was a new client,
you might have lost a client. Yeah, but there has to be, since we're talking about if anybody sees it, because I have a lot of people who will watch this on my LinkedIn,
yeah,
I think, or at least listen to this point. There has to be grace on both ends too,
yeah,
especially if you've proven yourself. If
yeah.
you've proven yourself, there has to be grace, right? And then so going into marketing and branding. So what channels bring you the strongest leads and what channels are underperforming based off of marketing? I know actually I think that's kind of like double whammy there, but I still want to kind of go into it. Do you have any marketing branding strategies that you've seen successful bringing clients in, right?
Yeah. I mean, at a smaller scale, LinkedIn, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
try to stay as active as possible on LinkedIn. Um, I truly do. I mean, I'm an old school email guy, so I'm emailing my clients, or what I would love to have future clients. I'll still email them, remind them I'm there. But in terms of like an AI or a marketing company taking over, No, that's what we lack, right? And I was really hoping that some of my recruiters, I'm not throwing them under the bus here, but if they were here, I would tell them like I would love to see more interaction with with the business development piece, right? And I think they get one track mind of just recruiting. I'm like, man, keep that avenue open to pivot, right? You should constantly think business development, constantly.
You know, what's crazy is, no matter what company I was working with, that was always a mindset for the recruiters to do that. No matter what team I was on, it was almost not successful every single. I've been on four separate teams, and it was always like pull those hot leads in, right? The only time they'll pull a hot lead in is if they got like a day of PTO or something, right? Whoever gets 10 hot leads gets a day of PTO. I think it's because the mind can only focus on one thing, right? But I think again when it comes down to like marketing and branding and growing on those sales leads, it does have to either be there's an account executive there that's like
Hmm.
pounding the dirt, and those guys are not cheap, or you do it some other way, right? So, but
That's correct, and that's a whole nother avenue, right? All right, now I'm paying a base salary, right, for a business development person, and then now we're opening up a whole another can of worms,
yeah,
to where if you have a recruiter saying, "Hey, focus on account managing on business development this week," I think they see it as like this is going to take too long.
yes. Or how the brain, if you're thinking about one thing so long, you got to like stop that thinking and then start that when it has to be momentum going that direction. I think that's really what's happening, right? They're like, oh, I got to go from recruiter brain to sales brain, and it just doesn't. It's not easy to do.
Yeah, because that's how I got. Yeah, that's how I landed what three major clients is I was recruiting for certain roles, gave them I reached out to them, started conversation. They're like, "Well, we're happy where we're at." But you know what? I like your approach, Kevin. You're not cheesy salesman guy, right? So I like that you're collaborative and you're strategic, and I think I'd like for you to support my business unit or my company. So that's how I landed three. Now, does that happen all the time? No, very
Yeah.
few and far between. So you can't rely on that.
Yeah.
So
See, it's not instant gratification either. You don't get the instant gratification of saying I landed a client. It takes 12 months of consistent effort to even say I got three, right? So I think that's also it as well. Like you go a whole week, talk to everybody and get 20 no's,
yeah,
and then you eventually land a client. So I guess it's either incentive or salary, right? One or the other.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, I was just going to say from like a branding standpoint, I support and I have a lot of respect for Texas A&M University system. I work closely with their assistant director of ops, Angela Bailey. She's at a College Station. She reports up to the director of Texas A&M AgriLife, right, which is research, and the branding is it's just it's top tier, right? So the media guides that they supplied me to distribute out with my logo, with Texas A&M's logo, and just the inside out of the job, right?
Yeah.
And it goes a long ways, and that's something that I was started thinking. I'm like, this is something we need to do for our firm, right? We're a little boutique style firm. We need better branding, better marketing, and maybe that starts with those type of media guides or whatnot. But that was very helpful in recruiting, um, these scientists and researchers.
Yeah, especially if that Texas A&M branding on it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's go to my favorite, right? How is AI impacting staffing firms right now? Um, is it positive? Is it negative? Like, and I know we talked about it a little bit, but this is kind of where we'll dive a little bit deeper into it.
I mean, I think a lot of people are scared of change, right? Like take the real estate agency right now. They're scared. Like my brother-in-law, he's a loan officer, so he's like, man, I'm gonna be out of a job in a year. But then I said, well, let's look at it this way, Brett. I'm like, look at it from how can this make a positive change to your company as a loan officer, right? So I think when in recruiting, same way, like how can we use AI to our advantage? Well, I know for a firm like mine, it needs help with marketing, getting our name out, right? Or speeding up the process. Okay. It still needs the human touch, in my opinion. It still needs that
Correct.
relationship building, and you do that through interaction, if that's virtual or on site. But I think you find out how to use AI to your advantage. If it speeds up the process, um, or gets your name out there into the right hands, into the decision makers.
Let's be honest. It just gives you that amount of time spent, it just 10x is your efficiency, right? If you're going to reach out to, you could only reach out to maybe 500, 600 people by email by yourself, but somehow you're able to reach out to 10,000 people a week now, right? You talk about a numbers game, right? That's the separator, right? You talk about marketing, you talk about, being able to have maybe a type of funnel for you to be able to connect people to information, right? Small things like that. What I think too is the one thing that people are most scared of too is it takes away from that unique ability to have very good conversation with candidates and your potential clients, right? So I think there's a beautiful blend of you're going to be able to spend more time on the phone because you're getting clients more often and the AI is taking care of everything else anyways, right? So it is. I was talking to another CEO of a company. She's doing very well. And another one who's in Mexico, funny enough, but he recruits out of the US. He's a boutique, very same style for IT, right? So big DevOps, AI, those guys. And he's like, it will amplify your issue. If you put AI in there and push a button and just send out 10,000 things you didn't want and it starts running, it will amplify the issue. So it has to be, excuse me, it has to be super strategic, right? Super strategic before the machine turns on. What are you trying to accomplish? Where do you sit in it? What's the brand look like? What communication do you want? And then it flows together.
And that's where like a company like mine, um, and I think we've done quite well for what resources we've
Yeah,
had, right?
absolutely.
And budget we've had. But I think we would really benefit from that. Like I'm very confident with getting on the phone in front of CEOs. That's not an issue at all. And I love those type of discovery calls. Now, just from a techie standpoint, from a technical standpoint, AI, we've been way behind the times on that. So it's like, do you jump on board the AI train? And if there's a good opportunity, take good advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's when I really started thinking about just when you and I just had a quick call, started really thinking of the AI piece, like how would my company benefit from this? And,
Yeah.
and the pros outweigh the cons.
The thing about it is it just takes some of the hard aspect of administration and the tedious tasks that you just don't want to do, and it makes your life better. I'm excited for all the people I've talked to see all the other people I've talked to because I've asked the same questions to different companies, all doing very similar. But if you start talking about 5 year projections and you say, if you had to put a bet on which ones are going to have less work and more revenue, or just being able to have a less complex business, it's typically the people who have integrated AI tremendously. Now, a lot of them would say this too. The last person I just talked to, I'm excited to put his out there. He said, you got to go out and just try them first. Got to try it, got to fail. Got to try it, got to fail. Because not all of them are going to fit your model, right? And then AI changes, like the companies change, right? And they change their tool sets. And now you just say, this is what I need. Let me get a tool that fits my need. Because not all the needs are the same, right? Some people are utilizing it in separate ways. So he was phenomenal. He was like, I tried all of them. When I talked to him, he's like, I don't need any help. I got all my AI stack. Now I'm still helping him with one of his tools. I'm going to be building him in like more of a proprietary tool for management. But for him, he was like, I tried them all. I found the 5 or 6 that leveraged really well for me. He's a one man shop and he's managing over 5 fractional teams, doing very, very well living in Mexico. And I was like, this is incredible, right? And so I think it's important for people to know that you're not going to get it right the first time, and you got to just find the tool that works best for you, right? And it's trial and error, right? And
Of
again,
course.
it takes someone that you can trust, right? Hey, turn it on. Hey, turn it off, right? Hey, this isn't working. Let's pivot. Let's get here, and then eventually you established your business in AI, right? So,
Yeah, well
um,
said.
um, where I guess is a good question. We've kind of hit it a little bit. No, I'll leave that there. We've hit it quite enough. So, future staffing. So, how do you see recruiter roles evolving within growth of automation?
Um, well, I think, like I said, I think I'll touch on it again. I think it'll only help recruiters, right?
Mhm.
Scale. Um, what I just don't want to see, and it's still positive, it's a positive note, is the lack of interaction. So, for example, when I get reached out on an email or even on LinkedIn, I can tell sometimes it's AI, right? Like the punctuation's all
Yeah.
jacked up, and and then like I got recruited the other day to be a CFO, and I'm like, I wouldn't know how to reconcile a spreadsheet or a P&L. Like,
Yeah.
what are you reaching out
It's
to me
AI.
for? So
Yeah.
those are the only things. All right.
Yeah.
And the recruiters that just want to stand behind a computer, I get it. And some of us work really well, hybrid or remote. But I still believe in that, that interaction. Don't get me wrong. Let the AI build your business. Let it do its thing, right? Tailor it. However, um, I still don't think you lose the face to face or even just the human to human component, in terms of because I don't think AI can negotiate salaries and
No.
compensation, right? So you still have to be. That's a big part of our role, right? So I don't want to see that go away, right?
Yeah.
And
You're never going to be able to, AI will never be able to become a salesperson. I don't believe.
right,
Right.
yeah.
And it can be a
Let
crowd
AI get you up on that hill, right?
for conversation, for handshakes, for all those things, without burning out tremendously. And the only reason I say that is the whole reason for this is, this is not the only thing I do, right? So, but my passion is that when I worked for a very large staffing firm, they had their own internal teams and AI proprietary systems. When they had a pain point, it gets fixed. They spread it out. They're creating bigger market share. They're becoming less expensive, and they're going to put a lot of mom and pop shops out, right? And so my number one role is to see, okay, let's get all these smaller businesses competing against these big dogs, right? But you get into those bigger companies and they're so burnt out. There's not one salesperson that says, man, I love my job, right? They'll say, man, this is a great opportunity to grow, but they would never say, man, I love this grind every single day, right? So,
So yeah, you're talking the large big dogs that are burnout, right?
mm, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the AI thing really is intriguing. I've been thinking about it over the new year, and I'm like, all right, how can this affect my company in a very positive way? Like, how can it
Yeah.
jumpstart it? You know, what
How
tools
can
are
I
you?
just how can I just become an employee for me that takes a lot of the headaches off the desk? That's really all it is. So, just closing here. What's one piece of advice you'd give to companies struggling to attract talent, to build business, to be in staffing right now? A lot of people I've been sitting down with are much smaller companies, and they're starting seeing that 2025 like drought a little bit. So, what piece of advice would you give them?
Give to clients?
Yeah, give to other staffing firms, maybe in similar situations as yourself.
To other staffing firms, yeah. Number one, don't ever give up. I mean, a lot of these small boutique firms, right? This is something I was thinking about the other day. Are like one client away. It's almost like living paycheck to paycheck, right? They're one client away from disaster, losing a client, right? So think open minded about the AI, right? You should always be keeping up with the times. Okay, always keep up with the times. Always adjust. Okay, be open minded to that. Surround yourself around people that are smarter than you. Okay, maybe that has to do with AI. Learn it. Maybe you're not going to like it now, but maybe you'll be up to speed and want to jump on board 6 months from now. Never panic, right? I don't believe in panicking out there and just trying to just play darts blindfolded, right? And I see that sometimes with recruiters saying, okay, submit this person. Slow down. Are you use ChatGPT to your advantage? You should be aligning your resumes on there with the job descriptions. Are you consulting your candidates well enough? Are you using the right resume for the role, or do they need to redo their resume? So I think keeping an open mind, don't ever give up. It can be stressful at times, but are we all maybe one client away from disaster? Thank God we're not. However, I'm sure a lot of them are. The AI piece, after thinking about it, I'm like, this can maybe take you to another level to where you have some cushion with more
Mhm,
clients. So in case you
mhm.
do lose a client, which I just lost a client the other day, they went under. And I'm like, okay, -1, right? So
Yeah,
that number drops down. But what if that was your only client? That's nerve wracking.
Mhm. Yeah, some people they live off of IDIQs. They live off that one big, behemoth, and then that goes under, and it's over after that,
Yeah,
So
yeah, and or you're relying on a major client with that lacks speed, right? And you're
yeah,
sitting there going, "All right, can we let's push this candidate through? He's ready to sign, or she's ready to sign, and they're dragging their feet." So that's not a way to live too. I believe I believe marketing, getting your name out there is the name of the game.
absolutely. So, what's next for your firm this coming year? Like, what's next for you guys? Like, what's your vision?
So, I mean, retention, right? I mean, for one, retention. You should always take really good care of your clients, right? And build those relationships. Um, Obviously, create new relationships too. That's the one thing. Like when I go to bed at night, I'm like, all right, I have no idea what tomorrow's gonna store. When I used to recruit for major companies as an internal recruiter, corporate recruiter, I'm very grateful for those jobs. But it was like, all right, tomorrow's Tuesday. I'm gonna go in the office and I'm gonna look at my rec list. All right, I'm gonna start sourcing. And that's cool. That's like security. Here, you better perform or you're not going to get paid. So it is very exciting. Going, I have no idea what's in store. I don't know who I'm going to connect or meet with or when that cell phone's going to ring with a possible new client. I really want to grow the business this year, but surround myself around the right people, right, Matt, and try to scale the business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you jumping on. How can clients, recruiters, partners get in touch with you? How can people get a hold of you if they want to?
So right on LinkedIn, Kevin Brennan, KTB Talent Group, um, or Kevin at ktbtalentgroup.com. Kevin at ktbtalentgroup.com. Um, and we're based, like I said, out of Montgomery. I have a recruiter out in Phoenix. I have a recruiter over in the UK. That I keep it small. I do like that smaller touch. So when they know
Yeah,
they call us, they're going to get us. And
yeah.
and if they text, I'll text them right back. I'll tailor the communication to how they would like. And
That's what I have a passion for. I love small businesses because they bring you the highest quality, right? They care the most. Like clients become family. And I just think that more smaller businesses doing a lot of high quality work produces a better economy. Just to be honest with you, keep prices low, everything else. So, well, Kevin, I appreciate you jumping on.
hey,
Um,
Matt, I appreciate you carving out time and having me on. You're doing great stuff, and look forward to growing the working relationship here. And happy New Year to you and your family.
Thank you. Absolutely. All righty. If anybody's on the podcast, again, this is Talent Talks. This is Kevin Brennan. And again, Kevin, thanks so much for being on.
Thanks, Matt.